The stars looked the same as always to Captain Veltar as he stood on the bridge of his ship, the luminous dawn. His 6 arms moved smoothly across the control panels, while his large black eyes scanned the empty space ahead. The ship moved slowly through the dark between worlds, its sensors reaching out like invisible fingers to touch anything that might be interesting. Veltar had been doing this job for many cycles now. His people, the Zephyrians, were explorers by nature. They loved to find new places, map new star systems, and learn about the universe around them. It was peaceful work, and Veltar enjoyed the quiet moments between discoveries. "Captain," called out his science officer Keflon from across the bridge. "We are getting some strange readings from the inner system." Veltar turned his attention to the younger Zephyrian. Keflon was excited about something, his purple skin showing the bright patches that appeared when his people felt joy or curiosity. "What kind of readings?" "Energy signatures that do not match our databases. Something artificial, but not like anything we have seen before." Keflon's fingers danced over his instruments. "The patterns are very complex, almost like they are trying to hide from us." This was interesting. In all their years of exploring, the Zephyrians had found many different alien species. Most were friendly, some were shy, but all followed similar patterns. They built cities, they explored space slowly, and they usually welcomed contact with other peaceful races. "Set course for the inner system," Veltar ordered. "But keep our shields ready and our peaceful signals broadcasting." The luminous dawn was not built for fighting. It had basic shields and could run away if needed, but its real purpose was science and exploration. The ship was beautiful, with smooth curves and large windows that let the crew see the stars clearly. Most of its space was filled with laboratories, living areas, and storage for scientific equipment. As they moved deeper into the system, more crew members gathered on the bridge. Dr. Yulseth, their expert on alien cultures, stood beside her. Student Nextel. Both were fascinated by the possibility of meeting a new species. "I wonder what they will be like," Dr. Yelseth said softly. "Their technology seems advanced but different from ours." Meanwhile, millions of miles away, another ship moved through the same system. The USS Liberty was nothing like the luminous dawn. Where the alien ship was smooth and beautiful, the human ship was hard and angular. Dark metal covered its hull, and weapon systems sat ready beneath armored plates. Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair, watching the displays around him. He was a career military officer, trained for war and always ready for trouble. His ship was on patrol duty, checking the outer edges of human space for pirates, smugglers, or other threats. "Contact on long-range sensors," reported his tactical officer, Lisa Grant. "Unknown vessel, moving toward the inner system." Morrison sat up straighter. "What kind of ship?" "Not sure, sir. The design is completely unfamiliar. It does not match any known human, pirate, or corporate vessels." Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "It is big, but the energy readings are low. Maybe a cargo ship or research vessel. Or a scout for something bigger," Morrison added. He had learned to be careful in his years of service. "Danny, are you picking up any signals?" Communications specialist Danny Rogers adjusted his headset. "Yes, sir, they are broadcasting on multiple frequencies. Looks like mathematical sequences and what might be peaceful intentions. Standard first contact stuff, if I had to guess." Morrison nodded. The human military had procedures for this kind of situation. Meet unknown contacts with caution, but be ready for anything. Take us to yellow alert. I want weapon systems ready but not active. Let's see what they want. The USS Liberty was a destroyer built for fighting. Every system on the ship was designed for war. Its engines could push it to incredible speeds, its weapons could destroy other ships with ease, and its armor could take massive damage. The crew of 200 were all trained soldiers, ready to fight and die for Earth and humanity, but they were also ready to talk. If talking would work better than fighting, back on the luminous dawn, the crew was getting excited. They had picked up the human ship on their sensors, and it looked like nothing they had ever seen before. "The design is so strange," Keflon reported. Very dense construction, heavy armor plating, and the power output is enormous. I have never seen a civilian ship with readings like this. Veltar studied the information on his screens. The alien ship was smaller than his own, but something about it made him feel uneasy. Could it be a military vessel? Perhaps, Dr. Yelseth sighed thoughtfully. Some species do use military ships for exploration and first contact. It might be their way of showing strength while still being peaceful. This made sense to the Zephyrians. In their long history of meeting other species, they had learned that many aliens had different customs. Some were more careful than others, and some liked to show off their technology. They are responding to our signals, reported their communications officer. The mathematical sequences are correct, and they are sending their first contact package. Veltar felt relief wash over. Excellent. Begin standard diplomatic procedures. Send them our cultural information and request permission to approach for face-to-face meetings. The next few hours passed slowly as both ships moved closer together. The crews on both sides worked to translate each other's languages and learn about each other's cultures. It seemed like it would be another successful first contact mission, but as the translation programs worked and more information flowed between the ships, small details began to worry the Zephyrians. The human language had many words for fighting, war, and weapons. Their history files were full of conflicts and battles. Even their entertainment seemed to focus on competition and violence. This is unusual, Dr. Yelseth muttered as she studied the human cultural files. Most species we meet have moved past their violent phases by the time they reach space travel. Nextel looked over her shoulder at the data. Maybe they are still learning. Some species take longer to become peaceful? Maybe, the doctor agreed, but she did not sound convinced on the USS Liberty. The crew was having their own discussions about the aliens. Zephyrians seemed peaceful enough, but Captain Morrison had learned not to take chances. Their ship is big but lightly armed, Lisa reported. I count maybe a dozen defensive systems, all low power. If they wanted to fight us, they would lose badly. Good to know, Morrison replied. But let's hope it does not come to that. Danny, what are you learning about their culture? Danny Rogers looked puzzled as he read through the alien files. It is weird, sir. They seem to have no military at all. No wars in their recent history, no weapons development, no competitive sports. Everything is about cooperation and peaceful exploration. That is hard to believe, Morrison said. How? Did they survive long enough to reach space? I don't know, sir. Maybe they got lucky, or maybe their planet never had the problems Earth did. Morrison nodded, but privately he wondered how any species could advance without the pressure of competition and conflict. On Earth, war and struggle had driven every major breakthrough in technology and science. As the two ships continued to approach each other, neither crew realized they were about to witness something that would change both their civilizations. Forever, the peaceful Zephyrians were about to learn what humans were really capable of, and the humans were about to discover that they were unique in the galaxy in ways they had never imagined. Captain Veltar gave the order to move closer to the strange alien ship. The luminous Dawn's engines hummed quietly as they pushed the exploration vessel toward what the crew hoped would be a historic first meeting between their species and these new aliens called humans. Maintain peaceful signals on all frequencies, Veltar instructed his communications officer. I want them to know we come in friendship. The Zephyrian crew was busy preparing for the encounter. Dr. Yelseth worked with her team to create cultural exchange packages that would help both species understand each other. They had done this many times before with other alien races, and it always went smoothly. The translation systems are working well, reported the communications officer. We should be able to talk to them directly soon. Keflon was studying the human ship more carefully now that they were closer. The readings his instruments gave him were puzzling and somewhat frightening. Captain, I am getting some very strange data about their vessel. What kind of strange? Veltar asked, moving to look at the science station displays. The power output is incredible. Much higher than any exploration ship should need. and the materials their hull is made from are very dense and strong. It almost looks like they expect to be shot at, this troubled Veltar. In all his years of exploration, he had never met species that built their first contact ships like fortresses. Most civilized races used beautiful, welcoming vessels for meeting new species. Perhaps they come from a dangerous part of space, Dr. Yelseth suggested. Some areas of the galaxy have more pirates and criminals. They might need stronger ships just to travel safely. This explanation made the crew feel better. It was reasonable that aliens from a rough neighborhood might need better protection. The Zephyrians decided to be extra careful to show their peaceful intentions. On the USS Liberty, Captain Morrison was having very different thoughts as he watched the alien ship approach. The vessel was large and graceful, but it looked fragile to his experienced military eye. "They are either very brave or very stupid," he told his tactical officer Lisa Grant. "That ship could not survive 5 minutes in a real fight." "Maybe they never had to fight," Lisa replied. "Some species might have evolved in safer conditions than we did." Morrison found this hard to believe. Every human civilization had been built through conflict and competition. Wars had driven technological advancement, and only the strongest of societies had survived to reach space. How could any species advance without that pressure? "Sir," called Danny Rogers from the communications station. "They are requesting permission to come alongside for direct meetings. They want to exchange crew members for cultural discussions." "Absolutely not," Morrison said immediately. "We maintain safe distance until we know more about them. Tell them we will talk through our communication systems first." Morrison was not being unfriendly, just careful. Military procedure demanded. Caution when meeting unknown aliens, especially when those aliens seemed defenseless. Sometimes the most dangerous enemies were the ones who looked harmless. As the hours passed, both crews learned more about each other through their communication systems. The Zephyrians were fascinated by human technology, especially the incredible efficiency of their systems. Everything on the human ship seemed designed for maximum performance. "Their computers process information much faster than ours," Keflon reported excitedly. "And their engines are remarkably powerful for such a small ship." But other details were more troubling. The human crew all seemed to be soldiers rather than scientists or diplomats. They spoke in military terms and asked questions about weapons, defenses, and potential threats in the area. "Why do they want to know about our defensive capabilities?" Nextel wondered aloud. "We told them we are explorers, not warriors." "Maybe they are trying to understand how we protect ourselves," Dr. Yelseth said, though she sounded uncertain. "Different species have different approaches to safety." The Zephyrians were starting to realize that humans thought about the world very differently than they did. Every human response seemed to consider possible dangers and conflicts, even in peaceful situations. Meanwhile, Captain Morrison was becoming more puzzled by the aliens with each conversation. The Zephyrians claimed to have no military, no weapons, beyond basic defensive systems, and no experience with interstellar conflict. How is that possible? He asked his officers during a brief strategy meeting. How did they survive long enough to build starships? "Maybe their homeworld had no predators," suggested Danny Rogers. "Or maybe they developed differently than we did." "Every world has competition for resources," Morrison replied. "Even if they had no predators, they would have had to compete with each other for food, land, and materials." Lisa Grant was studying the tactical data they had gathered about the alien ship. "Sir, I think they are telling the truth about having no weapons. My scans show mostly scientific equipment and living spaces. This really is just an exploration vessel." Morrison shook his head in amazement. The idea of sending an unarmed ship into unknown space seemed incredibly dangerous to him. What if they met pirates or hostile aliens? How would they defend themselves? "Keep monitoring their ship," he ordered, "and watch our long-range sensors. If this is some kind of trap, there might be more ships hiding nearby." Back on the Luminous. Dawn, the crew was preparing their formal first contact presentation. They wanted to make a good impression on these new aliens and show them the best of Zephyrian culture and science. I have prepared a comprehensive overview of our civilization, Dr. Yilseth announced. It covers our history, our values, our scientific achievements, and our hopes for peaceful cooperation with other species. Veltar approved the presentation, but he was still worried about the humans' military background. Make sure to emphasize our peaceful nature, he instructed. I want them to understand that we pose no threat to anyone. The cultural exchange began a few hours later. Both species shared information about their homeworlds, their histories, and their goals for space exploration. At first, everything seemed to go well. The Zephyrians were impressed by human technological achievements. Despite being a much younger species, humans had developed incredibly advanced systems for space travel, communication, and engineering. Their cities sounded amazing, and their scientific progress was remarkable, but as more details emerged, the Zephyrians began to feel uncomfortable. Human history was full of wars, competitions, and conflicts. Their literature and entertainment focused on struggle and victory over opponents. Even their sports involved teams fighting to defeat each other. This is very unusual, Dr. Yilseth whispered to her captain during a pause in the communication. Most species abandon competitive behaviors when they become civilized. Maybe they are still learning, Veltar replied, but he did not sound convinced. The humans, meanwhile, were equally puzzled by Zephyrian culture. The aliens seemed to have no concept of military strategy, no competitive sports, and no history of major conflicts. Their entire civilization appeared to be based on cooperation and sharing. How do they make decisions when there are disagreements? Morrison asked Danny Rogers. They talk until everyone agrees, Danny replied. No voting, no authority figures making final choices, just discussion until they reach consensus. That would take forever, Lisa Grant commented. What if they need to make quick decisions? They say emergency situations are rare because they plan everything carefully and avoid dangerous activities. Danny explained. Morrison found this alien approach to life almost impossible to understand. Human civilization had been built on quick decisions, bold risks, and the willingness to fight for what was important. How could any species survive by avoiding danger and talking through every problem? As the cultural exchange continued, both species began to realize they had encountered something completely outside their experience. The Zephyrians had never met a species that seemed so focused on conflict and competition. The humans had never imagined a civilization that could advance without those driving forces. Neither side was hostile, but both were deeply confused by what they were learning. The Zephyrians wondered how such a warlike species could create such beautiful technology and art. The humans wondered how such a peaceful species could survive in a dangerous universe. The conversation was interrupted when the USS Liberty's long-range sensors detected something new approaching from the outer system. 3 ships were moving toward them at high speed, and their energy signatures looked nothing like either human or Zephyrian vessels. Pirates, Morrison said grimly as he studied the sensor data. Probably attracted by our energy signatures. He turned to Danny Rogers. Tell the aliens to move away from us immediately. Things are about to get dangerous. But Captain Veltar did not understand the urgency in the human's voice. His people had rarely encountered space pirates, and when they did, the criminals usually just demanded some cargo and then left peacefully. Perhaps we can negotiate with them, Veltar suggested through the communication link. Most conflicts can be resolved through discussion. Morrison stared at the communication screen in disbelief. The aliens wanted to negotiate with pirates, who were approaching with weapons charged and hostile intentions clear. Sir, Lisa Grant called out urgently, the unknowns will be in weapons range in 10 minutes. The 3 pirate ships moved closer to the 2 vessels like hungry predators approaching their prey. Captain Morrison watched the tactical display with the calm focus of a professional warrior. He had faced pirates before, and these looked like typical raiders, fast, lightly armored, and counting on speed and surprise to overwhelm their targets. Range to targets? Morrison asked his tactical officer. 8 minutes to weapons range, sir, Lisa Grant replied. Her hands moved smoothly over her controls as she prepared the Liberty's weapon systems. Pirates are flying Kestrel-class raiders, fast and maneuverable, but weak armor and shields. Morrison nodded. He knew these ship types well. Pirates often used them because they were cheap and could outrun most cargo vessels. But they were not built to fight real warships. Danny, what are the aliens doing? Morrison asked. Communications specialist Danny Rogers checked his instruments. The Zephyrian ship is holding position, sir. They are still broadcasting peaceful messages to the approaching pirates. Morrison felt a mixture of admiration and disbelief. The aliens were either incredibly brave or completely naive about the danger they faced. Pirates this far from civilized space did not usually respond to peaceful messages with anything except laughter on the luminous dawn. Captain Veltar was trying to understand why the humans seemed so ready for violence. His people had dealt with space criminals before, and the solution was usually simple: give them some valuable cargo, and they would leave without hurting anyone. Open a channel to the approaching ships, Veltar ordered his communications officer. Offer them standard tribute for safe passage. Dr. Yilseth looked worried as she watched the human ship's preparations for battle. Captain, the humans seem to think these criminals are very dangerous. Maybe we should listen to their advice and move away. Nonsense, Veltar replied calmly. Violence only leads to more violence. Peaceful negotiation always works better. The Zephyrian captain truly believed this. In his species' long history, they had solved almost every problem through talking and compromise. Even their encounters with space pirates had usually ended with everyone satisfied, but these were not ordinary pirates. And this was not ordinary. Space. The three ships approaching them were from a particularly violent criminal group that had been terrorizing this region for months. They were led by a brutal captain who enjoyed causing pain and destruction even when it was not profitable. Unknown vessels, came a harsh voice over the communication systems. Prepare to be boarded. Surrender all valuable cargo and technology or be destroyed. Captain Morrison smiled grimly. At least the pirates were being honest about their intentions. Danny, tell the aliens to get out of here now, then prepare to broadcast our response. Yes, sir, Danny replied, then opened a channel to the Zephyrian ship. Alien vessel, this is USS Liberty. These are hostile pirates with deadly intent. Recommend you withdraw to safe distance immediately. Veltar received the message but still did not understand the urgency. Tell the humans we will handle this through diplomacy, he instructed. Morrison received this message and realized the aliens truly did not understand what they were facing. He made a command decision that would demonstrate human military capability to the galaxy for the first time. All hands, this is the captain, Morrison announced over the ship's internal communication system. We have 3 hostile pirate vessels approaching. Standard engagement protocols are authorized. Protect the alien vessel and eliminate the threat. The USS Liberty's crew responded with the efficiency of trained professionals. In the engine room, Chief Engineer Amy Parker pushed the reactors to full combat power. In the weapons sections, gun crews loaded their systems with live ammunition. Throughout the ship, 200 human warriors prepared to show the galaxy what their species was capable of. Sir, pirates are demanding we shut down our weapons and prepare for boarding, Danny reported. Send them our standard response, Morrison ordered. Danny opened a channel to the 3 pirate ships. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the USS Liberty. Earth Defense Force, you are ordered to change course immediately and leave this system. This is your only warning. The pirate leader's laughter came over the communication channel. Earth Defense Force? Never heard of it. Prepare to die, unknown ship. Morrison's expression did not change. He had expected this response. Pirates rarely listened to reason, which was why they had to be dealt with through superior firepower. Lisa, you have weapons free, Morrison ordered. Take them out. What happened next took place in less than 3 minutes, but it changed galactic history forever. The USS Liberty's first salvo came from its main railgun batteries. Magnetic acceleration launched solid metal projectiles at incredible speed toward the leading pirate ship. The projectiles moved so fast they were invisible, crossing the distance between ships in seconds. The first pirate vessel simply disappeared. One moment it was there, threatening and dangerous. The next moment it was expanding cloud of debris and energy. The railgun rounds had punched through its shields and armor like they were made of paper on the luminous dawn. The Zephyrian crew watched in stunned horror. They had never seen anything destroyed so quickly and completely. Their instruments could barely track what had happened. "By the stars," whispered Keflon, staring at his sensor readings. The energy output was enormous. How is such destruction possible? The second pirate ship tried to turn away, realizing too late that they had attacked something far beyond their ability to handle. But the USS Liberty's plasma cannons were already tracking it. Beams of superheated energy reached out across space and touched the fleeing vessel. The pirate ship's shields lasted less than 2 seconds against the concentrated plasma fire. The beams cut through the hull like laser cutters through thin metal. Secondary explosions rippled through the ship as its fuel and ammunition cooked off. Captain Veltar felt sick as he watched the destruction. The casual efficiency with which the humans eliminated their enemies was unlike anything in his experience. There was no hesitation, no attempt at negotiation, just swift and deadly violence. The third pirate ship was frantically trying to escape, its engines pushed to maximum power, but it was too late. The USS Liberty's missile systems had locked onto the target, and guided warheads were already racing through space. Each missile was a small miracle of human military technology. They could track moving targets, adjust their course during flight, and punch through defensive systems with shaped explosive charges. The pirate ship's countermeasures were useless. Against such advanced weapons, the final explosion lit up the darkness between worlds. The USS Liberty's tactical systems were already analyzing the debris, cataloging useful salvage and updating threat assessments for future encounters. "Targets eliminated," Lisa Grant reported calmly. "All systems nominal. No damage to our vessel." Morrison nodded approvingly. "Good work, everyone. Stand down from battle stations but maintain alert status. Danny, check on our alien friends." The entire engagement had lasted exactly 2 minutes and 37 seconds. 3 pirate ships had been completely destroyed with no damage to the USS Liberty. To the human crew, it was routine patrol duty. To the Zephyrians, it was a glimpse into a completely different way of thinking about the universe. "Alien vessel, this is USS Liberty," Danny called over the communication channel. "Threat has been eliminated. Are you in need of assistance?" For long moments, there was no response from the luminous dawn. The Zephyrian crew was too shocked to speak. They were trying to process what they had just witnessed. Finally, Captain Veltar found his voice. We are undamaged. But those ships, you destroyed them completely." "Yes, sir," Danny replied matter-of-factly. "They were pirates with hostile intent. Standard rules of engagement applied." Dr. Yelseth was studying the sensor readings from the battle, trying to understand the technology that had made such destruction possible. "The weapon systems they used," she said to her captain, "they are far beyond anything in our databases. These humans are not just explorers, they are warriors." Nextel was looking at the debris field where 3 ships had been just minutes before. How can they be so calm about taking lives? They show no emotion, no regret. "Because to them this was necessary," Dr. Yelseth replied with growing understanding. "They saw a threat and eliminated it efficiently. This is how their species thinks." Captain Morrison was having his own thoughts about the aliens. Their ship had remained in the danger zone throughout the entire battle, apparently trusting that the humans would protect them. Either they were incredibly trusting or completely naive about the realities of space combat. "Sir," Lisa Grant reported, "I am detecting valuable salvage in the debris field. Standard recovery procedures?" "Affirmative," Morrison replied. "But keep monitoring the alien ship. I want to know how they react to our salvage operations." What happened next disturbed the Zephyrians even more than the battle itself. The USS Liberty moved efficiently through the debris field. using tractor beams and collection drones to gather useful materials from the destroyed pirate ships. Metals, rare elements, and intact technology components were pulled into the human ship's cargo holds. "They are looting the dead," Nextel said in horror. "No," Dr. Yelseth corrected, though she sounded troubled. "They are being practical in their think." After the battle, both ships moved to a safer location deeper in the system. The silence between them stretched for hours as each crew tried to understand what had just happened. The Zephyrians were struggling to process the casual violence they had witnessed, while the humans were puzzled by the aliens' reaction to what seemed like a routine defensive action. Captain Morrison decided to break the silence first. "Danny, open a channel to the alien ship. Let's see if they still want to continue our cultural exchange." "Channel open, sir," Danny Rogers reported. "Captain Veltar, this is Captain Morrison. I hope our defensive actions did not alarm your crew. The pirates posed a clear threat to both our vessels." On the luminous dawn, Veltar exchanged glances with his officers before responding. "Captain Morrison, we appreciate your protection. However, we must admit that your methods were ... unexpected. My people would like to learn more about your approach to such situations." Morrison nodded to himself. The aliens were being diplomatic, but he could hear the shock in their voices. "Of course. We would be happy to explain our procedures and learn about yours as well." Dr. Yelseth took charge of the renewed cultural exchange, but now she had very different questions to ask. "Captain Morrison, when your species encounters hostile forces, is destruction always the preferred solution?" "Not always," Morrison replied. "Honestly. But in this case, the pirates had made their intentions clear and posed an immediate threat. Negotiation was not a viable option." "But surely there were other possibilities," Veltar interjected. "Disabling their ships, frightening them away, or offering them alternative targets?" The human crew looked at each other in surprise. These suggestions seemed naive and dangerous to their military-trained minds. "With respect, Captain," Morrison said carefully, "any of those approaches would have left the pirates free to attack other innocent vessels. Sometimes the most merciful action is to end a threat permanently." This concept was alien to the Zephyrians. In their experience, problems were solved through understanding and compromise, not elimination. Even their worst criminals were usually rehabilitated rather than punished. "Tell me about your military forces," Dr. Yelseth requested. "How large is your defense fleet?" Morrison paused before answering. Military information was usually classified, but these aliens seemed genuinely peaceful and were clearly not a threat. "To Earth, Earth Defense Force maintains approximately 2,000 active warships of various classes," he said finally, "plus support vessels, space stations, and planetary defense systems." The silence from the alien ship was deafening. Finally, Keflon's voice came over the communication channel, sounding amazed and terrified. 2,000 warships? For one star system? "Earth controls 17 star systems," Morrison corrected. "And we are expanding into new territories regularly." The Zephyrians were struggling to comprehend these numbers. Their entire civilization had fewer than 50 ships of any kind, and most of those were for exploration and trade. How many people do you have?" Dr. Yelseth asked weakly. "Current human population is approximately 42 billion across all our colonies," Morrison replied. "Though that number is growing rapidly as we establish new settlements." The previous silence had been deafening. This one was complete. The luminous dawn went quiet for so long that the humans began to worry that something had gone wrong with their communication systems. Finally, Captain Veltar's voice returned, much quieter than before. "Captain Morrison, I think we need to share more detailed information about our respective civilizations. It appears we have made some incorrect assumptions about each other." Over the next several hours, both species began to understand just how different they really were. The humans learned that Zephyrian civilization consisted of only one star system with a total population of 3 billion. They had been spacefaring for thousands of years, but their expansion was slow and careful. The Zephyrians learned that humanity had reached space only a few centuries ago. but had expanded aggressively through conquest, colonization, and military force. Their population was growing exponentially, and their technology advanced through constant competition and warfare. "Your growth rate is impossible," Keflon protested. "No species can sustain such rapid expansion without exhausting their resources." "Lisa," Grant answered this time, "we do not exhaust resources, we find new ones. When one world is fully developed, we move to the next. When one system is settled, we expand to another. Competition drives innovation, and innovation solves problems." "But what about the other species you encounter during this expansion?" Dr. Yosef asked with growing concern. "Most are friendly and welcome trade relationships," Morrison explained. "Some are hostile and must be dealt with accordingly. A few are too primitive for contact and are left alone until they develop further." The casual way Morrison discussed conquering hostile species made the Zephyrians feel cold inside. They were beginning to realize that humans saw the galaxy very differently than they did. "Captain Morrison," Veltar said slowly, "what would happen if your species encountered a civilization that refused to allow human expansion into their territory?" Morrison thought carefully before answering. This was clearly a sensitive topic for the aliens. That would depend on the specific circumstances. If they had legitimate claims to the territory and were willing to negotiate, we would respect their rights. If they were simply being unreasonably aggressive, we would defend our colonists and settlers. And if negotiation failed, Dr. Yosef pressed, then we would do what was necessary to protect human lives and interests. Morrison replied firmly. The Zephyrians were beginning to understand that they had encountered a species unlike anything in their experience. Humans were not evil or cruel, but they thought about survival and expansion in terms of competition and conflict. To them, the galaxy was a place where the strong protected what was theirs and took what they needed. "Tell us about your entertainment," Dr. Yilseth requested, hoping to find some common ground. "What do humans do for pleasure and relaxation?" Danny Rogers brightened at this question. "Well, we have many sports where teams compete against each other. Football, basketball, combat sports like boxing and martial arts. We also have racing competitions with vehicles, boats, and aircraft. All of these involve competition and victory over opponents?" Nextal asked. "Of course," Danny replied, sounding puzzled. "That is what makes them exciting. The challenge of testing yourself against others and proving who is better." The Zephyrians exchanged worried glances. Even human entertainment was? Based on conflict and competition, Dr. Yilseth tried a different approach. "What about your arts? Music, literature, visual creations?" "Human art often tells stories of struggle and triumph," Morrison answered. "Our greatest literature describes heroes overcoming impossible challenges. Our music celebrates victory, mourns defeat, and inspires people to fight for what they believe in." "Do you have any peaceful activities?" Veltar asked desperately. Morrison thought for a moment. "We enjoy nature, family gatherings, learning new things. But even our peaceful activities often have competitive elements. People compete to see who can climb the highest mountain, swim the longest distance, or create the most beautiful garden." The cultural exchange was becoming more disturbing to the Zephyrians with each revelation. Everything about human civilization seemed to revolve around competition, challenge, and the idea that conflict made people stronger. Meanwhile, the humans were equally confused by Zephyrian culture. When they learned more about alien society, they found it almost impossible to understand. "You have no competitive sports at all?" Lisa Grant asked in amazement. "Competition creates inequality and bad feelings," Dr. Yosef explained. "We prefer activities where everyone participates equally and shares in the results." "But how do you improve without the pressure of competition?" Morrison asked. "How do you know who has the best ideas or the strongest abilities?" "We discuss everything as a group until we reach agreement," Veltar replied. "Everyone contributes their knowledge and experience, and together we find the best solutions." "That must take forever," Danny commented. "What if you need to make quick decisions?" "We plan carefully to avoid situations that require quick decisions," Keflon explained. Emergency situations are rare when everyone thinks through problems thoroughly. Morrison shook his head in bewilderment. The alien approach to life seemed impossibly slow and inefficient to his military mind. How could any species survive without the ability to react quickly to threats and opportunities? The conversation turned to technology development, and here, the differences became even more striking. Humans had developed their advanced systems through military competition and the pressure of warfare. Every major breakthrough had come from trying to build better weapons, stronger defenses, or faster ships. The Zephyrians had developed their technology through patient research and careful cooperation. Their scientific advances came slowly but steadily as generations of researchers built on each other's work without pressure or competition. Your technological development pattern is unique, Keflon admitted grudgingly. In such a short time, you have achieved things that took us thousands of years to accomplish. War and competition drive innovation, Morrison explained. When survival depends on having, the time had come for both ships to return to their respective homes. Captain Morrison and Captain Valtar knew that their meeting would change everything for both their species. As they prepared to part ways, each crew worked frantically to compile reports that would reshape galactic civilization. On the USS Liberty, Morrison sat in his ready room composing the most important document of his career. Every word would be analyzed by Earth's military leadership and civilian government. The future of human expansion into the galaxy might depend on how well he described this first contact. Personal log, Captain Jake Morrison, he began. First, contact with alien species designated Zephyrian has been completed successfully. Species appears peaceful and technologically advanced, but lacks any significant military capability. Recommend immediate diplomatic outreach while maintaining standard security protocols. Morrison paused, thinking about the implications of what he had learned. The Zephyrians represented something Earth had never encountered before, a spacefaring civilization with no military tradition whatsoever. They could be valuable allies, but they would also need protection from less peaceful species. The Zephyrians appear to be part of a larger galactic community of peaceful species, he continued. Their reaction to standard combat operations suggests that military conflict is rare in their part of space. This presents both opportunities and challenges for human expansion. Meanwhile, on the luminous dawn, Captain Veltar faced a much more difficult task. His report would have to convince the Galactic Confederation that humanity represented something completely unprecedented in known space. Emergency report to the Confederation Council, Veltar dictated to his recording device. First contact with species designated human has revealed a technological and military capability unlike anything in our records. Immediate consultation with all member species is recommended. Dr. Yilseth worked alongside her captain to prepare detailed cultural analysis that would help other species understand what they were dealing with. The data was troubling and fascinating in equal measure. Human civilization appears to have compressed normal evolutionary development through constant warfare and competition, she recorded. Their technological advancement rate exceeds any known species by several orders of magnitude. Current population and expansion rates suggest they will be a major galactic power within centuries rather than millennia. Keflon was analyzing the technical data they had gathered about human technology. His findings were even more disturbing than the cultural information. Human military technology demonstrates capabilities that should not be possible for such a young species, he reported. Their weapon systems, defensive technology, and propulsion methods are centuries ahead of their apparent developmental stage. This suggests that military pressure has accelerated their advancement in ways we do not fully understand. Back on the USS Liberty, Morrison was having similar thoughts about the aliens. His tactical analysis would be crucial for Earth's future planning in galactic affairs. Zephyrian technology is sophisticated but focused entirely on peaceful applications. He wrote, "Their ships are large and comfortable but cannot defend themselves against serious military threats. Their society appears stable and wealthy but completely unprepared for aggressive contact with hostile species. Morrison thought about the broader implications of what they had discovered. If the Zephyrians were typical of galactic civilization, then humanity was entering a community of peaceful species who had never faced serious military threats. Recommendation: proceed with diplomatic contact but maintain military superiority, Morrison continued. These species represent potential allies and trade partners, but they also control territory and resources that humanity may need for continued expansion. Lisa Grant was preparing her own technical report about the encounter. Her analysis of the alien ship's capabilities would help Earth's engineers understand what they might face in future contacts. Zephyrian vessels appear designed for long-term exploration and comfort rather than combat effectiveness, she wrote. Their power systems are efficient but low output. Their sensors are excellent for scientific work but limited for tactical applications. Their defensive systems could not withstand even light military action. The tactical implications were clear to any military professional. If the rest of galactic civilization was similar to the Zephyrians, then human military technology would give Earth an overwhelming advantage in any conflicts that might arise. On the luminous dawn, Nextel was struggling with the moral implications of what they had witnessed. His report would focus on the ethical challenges that humanity's arrival would bring to galactic civilization. The humans are not evil, but their approach to problem-solving is fundamentally different from our own, he wrote. They see conflict as natural and necessary, while we see it as a failure of communication and understanding. These different philosophies may be impossible to reconcile. Dr. Yilseth was reaching similar conclusions in her analysis. The cultural gap between humanity and the rest of galactic civilization might be too wide to bridge completely. Human society is built on competition and the idea that conflict makes individuals and civilizations stronger, she recorded. This is completely alien to Confederation values of cooperation and consensus. Integration of human civilization into galactic society will require unprecedented diplomatic effort. As both ships prepared to depart, Captain Morrison made one final attempt to understand the aliens who had changed his view of the galaxy. Captain Veltar, he called over the communication channel, I want you to know that humanity values the friendship you have shown us today. We hope this is the beginning of a long and peaceful relationship between our species. Veltar responded with genuine warmth despite his fears about the future. Captain Morrison, your protection today saved my crew from harm. We will remember your kindness and hope that wisdom will guide both our peoples in the difficult times ahead. The USS Liberty activated its jump drive first, disappearing into hyperspace with a flash of blue energy. Morrison was eager to deliver his report to Earth Command and begin preparations for humanity's entry into galactic civilization. The luminous dawn remained in the system for several more hours as Captain Veltar made additional sensor sweeps of the area. He wanted to gather every possible piece of data about human technology before reporting to the Confederation. Captain, Keflon said quietly, what do you think will happen when our people meet theirs in greater numbers? Veltar considered the question carefully. I think the galaxy is about to become a much more complicated place. The humans are not our enemies, but they are unlike anything we have ever encountered. Change is coming whether we are ready for it or not. When the luminous dawn finally departed for home, both crews carried with them the knowledge that they had participated in a moment that would be remembered throughout galactic history. 3 weeks later, Captain Morrison stood in the briefing room at Earth Command headquarters, facing the assembled leaders of humanity's military and civilian government. His report had caused an immediate sensation throughout Earth's political establishment. Ladies and gentlemen, Morrison began, humanity is not alone in the galaxy. We have made contact with a peaceful alien species that is part of a larger galactic civilization. This civilization appears to control vast territories and resources but lacks any significant military capability. Fleet Admiral Robert Chun leaned forward in his chair. Captain, in your professional opinion, how do these aliens compare to human military capabilities? Sir, there is no comparison, Morrison replied honestly. Their technology is advanced. In many ways, but they have no weapons, no military training, and no experience with large-scale conflict. A single human destroyer could probably defeat their entire space fleet. The implications of this statement rippled through the room. Earth's leaders began to understand that humanity might have a unique opportunity to become a major power in galactic civilization. Meanwhile, in a crystal palace orbiting the Zephyrian homeworld, Captain Veltar stood before the assembled representatives of 47 peaceful species. His report had caused panic, confusion, and desperate calls for emergency sessions throughout the Confederation. "Honored counselors," Veltar said solemnly, "we have encountered a species that challenges everything we thought we knew about civilizational development. The humans have achieved in centuries what we believe should take millennia. They have done this through warfare, competition, and aggressive expansion." The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers and fearful discussions. Many species had never even heard of a civilization that had reached space through military conquest. Counselor Yexhai of the peaceful Krellin spoke for many when she asked, "Are these humans a threat to our way of life?" Veltar chose his words carefully. "They are not hostile to peaceful species, but they are fundamentally different from us. They see the galaxy as a place of competition and conflict. We see it as a place of cooperation and sharing. These different views may lead to problems in the future." Dr. Yosef added her analysis to the discussion. "The humans are expanding rapidly and will encounter our territories within decades. We must decide how to respond to a species that thinks so differently from ourselves.